Today, we're going to dive deep into a true physiological outlier, an animal that really challenges our fundamental understanding of vertebrate life, the Antarctic icefish. This is an absolutely fascinating case study in evolution, one that pushes the boundaries of what we thought was possible and gives us a profound look at adaptation, and maybe what you could even call maladaptation. It's an evolutionary bargain that came with some pretty steep consequences. Now, the whole point of this channel is to examine the incredible physiology and adaptations we see in the animal world, and the hope is that by understanding these unique biological solutions, we as clinicians can spark new ideas and maybe even drive some real innovation in our own fields. The icefish, you'll see, is a perfect example of this.
Just take a look at this. The visual contrast here is, well, it's just stunning. In panel B, on top, you see the heart and blood of an icefish. It's pale, almost ghostly, and the blood is clear. Below it, for comparison, is the rich red heart and blood from one of its close relatives. And let's be perfectly clear, this isn't anemia as we think about it in the clinic. This is a complete genetically programmed absence of hemoglobin.
So right away, this poses a fundamental question for all of us. We spend our entire careers managing hemoglobin levels, transfusing packed red cells, doing everything we can to optimize oxygen delivery. So how in the world does a complex vertebrate not only survive, but actually thrive without the one molecule we consider the absolute cornerstone of oxygen transport?
All right, let's start at the beginning, the genetics. Because this isn't just a simple downregulation of a gene. We're talking about a complete catastrophic deletion of essential genetic code.
The loss of hemoglobin seems to trace back to a single mutational event that just wiped out the entire beta-globin gene. It wasn't a gradual phasing out, it was just gone. And what's even crazier is that myoglobin, the oxygen-binding protein in muscle tissue, was lost independently through different mutations in about a third of the icefish species. These aren't really adaptations in the classic sense. Some biologists have coined the term disadaptations for them, traits that are clearly inferior to what was there before, and that then demand these massive system-wide compensations.
But for any of this to have been even remotely possible, a critical gain of function had to happen first. The entire group of fish that includes the icefish ancestor evolved what are called antifreeze glycoproteins, or AFGPs. These amazing molecules prevent intracellular ice crystals from forming, which is what allowed them to survive in the Southern Ocean, where the water is consistently around -1.9 degrees Celsius. So this adaptation, this critical gain, really set the stage for everything that was to follow.
So, with the antifreeze in place, the loss of hemoglobin became survivable, but it forced one of the most extreme cardiovascular remodels known in the animal kingdom. Think about it. You've just lost 90% of your blood's oxygen-carrying capacity. The entire system has to be re-engineered from the ground up. And this slide really shows you the sheer scale of that compensation. From a clinical perspective, the icefish essentially lives in a state of chronic, profound volume overload. Its blood volume is 2 to 4 times higher than its relatives. This, of course, necessitates an exceptionally high cardiac output, which leads to massive cardiomegaly. To handle all that flow, their blood vessels, even the capillaries, are enormous. And when you combine that with a near zero viscosity from having no red cells, you get this unique, high-flow, low-pressure system. It's really an incredible natural model of compensatory cardiac hypertrophy.
Now, the challenges go way beyond just getting oxygen to the tissues. When you lose red blood cells, you lose a huge, massive pool of critical intracellular enzymes.
Which of course brings up the problem of CO2 excretion. In us, the vast majority of carbonic anhydrase is packed inside our red blood cells, where it rapidly converts bicarbonate back to CO2 for exhalation. The icefish lost that entire enzymatic compartment. So what did it do? Well, its solution was actually brilliant. It started expressing a membrane-bound form of carbonic anhydrase directly on the surface of its gills. This allows it to catalyze the reaction right there in the plasma. It's a fantastic biochemical workaround.
Okay, let's go down to the tissue level, especially in the heart. Here we see another key adaptation. To compensate for that low PO2 gradient and the complete lack of myoglobin, icefish have an incredible density of mitochondria. These cellular powerhouses are not only more numerous, they're also larger. And what this does, as Fick's law would predict, is it dramatically minimizes the diffusion distance for oxygen, making sure that what little oxygen is dissolved in the plasma can actually get to the sites of aerobic respiration. It's absolutely critical. So we've seen the what, the physiological changes, and we've seen the how, the compensations, but now let's get to the really interesting part. What are the molecular signals that are actually driving these dramatic changes? The answer seems to lie in the underlying signaling pathways that allowed this whole evolutionary response to happen in the first place. One of the most elegant hypotheses revolves around nitric oxide. As you know, hemoglobin and myoglobin are potent scavengers of NO. So, by losing them, the icefish inadvertently created a physiological state of chronically elevated NO bioavailability. And what does sustained high levels of NO do in other vertebrates? They drive angiogenesis and mitochondria biogenesis, the very compensations they needed. It's this remarkable, almost paradoxical homeostatic feedback loop where the genetic loss itself may have triggered the solution.
Beyond NO, more recent work has highlighted the role of microRNAs. Now these, as you know, are small, non-coding RNAs that act as these incredible fine-tuning switches for gene expression, often in response to cellular stress, like, say, chronic hypoxia. They're critical players in regulating complex phenotypes.
And this slide details a specific molecular pathway that seems to be driving that cardiomegaly we talked about. So let's walk through it. The chronic systemic hypoxia, from having no hemoglobin, causes a downregulation of two specific microRNAs. Now, these mRNAs normally act as brakes on a gene called BMP2. So with the brakes removed, BMP2 gets upregulated. This upregulation then triggers a cascade that promotes cardiomyocyte proliferation, and the end result is the massively enlarged heart. It's a beautiful, direct molecular link from the genetic loss all the way to the anatomical compensation.
But it's so important to remember that this entire suite of incredible adaptations is built upon a very specific and very stable environmental foundation.
The Southern Ocean is a unique place on Earth. It is extremely cold, and critically, it's thermally stable. But just as important, because of that extreme cold, the water holds a very high concentration of dissolved oxygen. This high environmental PO2 is the permissive factor. It's what makes survival with only plasma-dissolved oxygen physically possible in the first place. You add to that low species competition after a major glaciation event, and you have the perfect crucible for this wild evolutionary experiment.
The result of evolving in this incredibly stable environment is that icefish are profoundly stenothermal. They are exquisitely adapted, but only to a very, very narrow temperature range. Their entire physiology, from their enzyme kinetics to the fluidity of their cell membranes, is optimized for the bitter cold and nothing else.
And this, of course, leads us to the final and really pressing question. This radical suite of adaptations was the key that allowed them to dominate a unique ecological niche. But now, in a world where the Antarctic Peninsula is warming faster than almost anywhere else on Earth, has this extreme specialization become an evolutionary trap? Is this remarkable survivor actually facing a dead end?
Thank you for your time. I really hope you found this deep dive into extreme physiology as fascinating as I do. As always, keep your curiosity.